Welcome to Jay's Sports. I'm your host, Joe Chap. We're going to be talking Michigan football because they flipped the commitment of Bryce Underwood, and he is the number one player in America. And we have to talk about it because when you think about what Sharon Moore has been doing on the recruiting trail lately, it's pretty impressive. He flipped number one recruit Bryce Underwood from LSU. He flipped five star. He landed 5-star Andrew Babala. Shamari Earls from Georgia, he flipped. He flipped Elijah Dotson from Pitt. Jaden Sanders, he landed. It was a 4-star. And then he flipped Benny Patterson from Cincinnati and Jamar Broder from NC State. I have no clue who any of these kids are. I don't know if they can play football. My thing about this is that is a hell of a couple weeks on the recruiting trail. And the number one recruit is the one that really flips it to Michigan and flips it to Sharon Moore. And there was caution with me because I didn't think that Michigan was going to embrace NIL, and I feel like if they did embrace NIL, they would be one of the best programs in the country because of who their donor base is, and if they just got organized in their NIL collective, they would be among the top NIL groups. You know, Tennessee has a really good NIL program. Ohio State has a good NIL program. Texas has a good NIL program. It's just all these teams that you see at the top of the college football playoff, they have a great NIL program. And I felt like a couple years ago, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, when the whole NIL thing was taken off, I said, if Michigan can just get organized, find it way, they would be very, very well versed. And you see what's happening with basketball, you see what's happening with football at the University of Michigan. Hockey program's doing pretty good too. Baseball program has been doing pretty good. They have figured out a way to make things happen. You can't say that for another team in the state. But it's been a hell of a week. And, I can question Sharon Moore and his game management skills. That's entirely possible. But the reality of the situation is, what a hell of a couple weeks that he's had on the recruiting trail. Obviously, the NIL collective has helped him out a ton. And look, in this new era of college football, the NIL collectives are going to be huge. And if you could be one of the guys who becomes a regular getting these players, flipping these players, you're going to be all right. You see what Dusty May has done with Michigan in terms of bringing the talent that he brought in. You see what Sharon Moore is doing on the recruiting trail as of late. It's interesting. We see teams like Texas and teams like Ohio State and Tennessee. Tennessee, they paid a lot for Nico, the quarterback, Alibaba or whatever. Obviously, Ohio State has a bag. Their collective is unbelievable. They have they basically have a salary cap there. But Michigan's trending in the right direction. Is Michigan going to be like Ohio State? Probably not. But this was a good step in the right direction. You know that you gave Bryce Underwood a pretty good amount from the NIL collective. So it's a great day for the University of Michigan, especially the Michigan football program. But if you're a Michigan football fan, you have to be excited about what your NIL program is doing, how organized it is, and where you're going in the future. Because if you could stack recruiting classes like this, you're going to be right there with Ohio State, right there with Texas, right there with Georgia. This is a team that can win. But in this new era of college football, you need to have a good NIL program. It's just the way it goes. And if you don't, you'll be left behind. And there's a lot of Big Ten teams that are going to be left behind, not having an NIL program that is as organized as Michigan or Ohio State or Texas or Ole Miss or Tennessee or Penn State has a good NIL program. So does Nebraska. So this is all going to work itself out. And I think Michigan has done a damn good job at just putting together the right people at the collective. And then if Jerome Moore it proves not to be the right coach, you could move on from him and you will get any coach you want in America because if you have an NIL collective like this, there is no doubt that Michigan football is here to stay for a long time. This might be a down year for Michigan in terms of the way that they played, and they got a big game against Northwestern this week. But if you're Michigan, if you're a Michigan fan, you have to be excited about the way this team has been able to put together. Look how far they've came from just a couple years ago. I mean, a lot of people questioned our NIL program a couple years ago, and now you're like, I really can't question them at all. So you got a big game against Northwestern this week to get bowl eligible. You're obviously 10.5 point favorites if you're a Michigan fan. The total is just 36.5. This is a win for the season. Um, you know, Obviously it's been a frustrating year for the Michigan Wolverines, losing two straight um, to Oregon and Indiana. But look at the recruiting class you got in. Look how organized your NIL program is, and this should be a win internally for Michigan football fans because the future is bright for Michigan football. It truly is. Now, if Jerome Moore proves not to be the coach, like I said, any coach that's going to come into Michigan football is going to come into a great situation. And if you're Michigan football and you're Sharon Moore, you have a golden opportunity to take a hold of. Obviously, there's some notice of allegations that will come out in the next week. We'll see what happens with that. But Michigan's in a good place. Their NIL program's in a good place. Their football program's in a good place, and they just got the number one recruit in America. It's got to be good to be a Michigan Wolverine fan right now because this is, how do you say it? This has been a treasure trove of just goodwill happening at the University of Michigan with the Michigan football program. So we're going to talk more about Michigan football in upcoming videos. We were going to do a game preview, but there's no point in doing a game preview for the Northwestern because Michigan should absolutely handle them. And honestly, it's probably going to be the most boring game of the weekend. The total is like 36.5. So we will do Sunday. You will get a video, you know, going over the Michigan game, and then you could see it there. But thank you for watching. And obviously, this has been a good day for the University of Michigan as we record this on a Thursday. So, just a couple hours ago, Bryce Underwood flipped his commitment from LSU to Michigan, and Brian Kelly. I wonder if he's changed his accent yet. We'll see on another episode of JC Sports on the YouTube page. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video as we talk more Michigan athletics.